Yeah, just sit there and laugh and then say something really stupid.
I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
We discussed Charmeen, Obaid, Chinoy yesterday. All right, we discussed her comments, her hiring. You know, I had this whole video planned for today. I was going to go into a little more depth about things. And maybe this is going to the well too much. But this isn't really about the movie. This isn't really about her comments. This is about an article that is a take on the reaction to her comments. Of course, leave it to the MarySue.com, Rachel Ulatowski, to come up with a complete garbage tier take. And then I bet you if I check her Twitter thread, she's probably recoiled and played victim already, if enough people have seen this dreck she wrote. Shocking. Men are uncomfortable because a female Star Wars director spoke the truth.
The age of men is over.
First of all, sweetheart, she's not a Star Wars director yet. She's been named a director. So there's more directors than there is movies if this woman is a Star Wars director just by being named, you know, to a project, which we know. What happened to Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron movie? Oh, yeah. What happened to that Rian Johnson trilogy? The Lord and Miller? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. A Josh Trank cocaine cutaway.
You've got to do better.
This is the thing that makes me laugh. Men are uncomfortable because a female Star Wars director spoke the truth.
Women.
The first female Star Wars director, Charmeen Obaid Chinoy, revealed she enjoys making men uncomfortable with her work. Promptly, all the right-wing man babies of the world proceeded to become extraordinarily uncomfortable by merely her wanting to make them uncomfortable.
Liar!
Wasn't uncomfortable by her statements, and no amount of cringe feminism makes me uncomfortable. It just makes me laugh because of how pathetic an attempt it is for attention. Much like this article, the writer, Miss Ulatowski, comes right out of the gates. All the right-wing man babies of the world proceeded to become extraordinarily uncomfortable. All the right-wing man babies. So right there, she's a leftist. She's guaranteed she's probably miserable, lives in an apartment by herself, has a cat or two. I'm not trying to generalize, but generally, these are the kinds of... Or she's dating some male who watches her get... Two-time Oscar winner, Obaid Chinoy, which she's won for documentaries, which nobody really cares about outside the subjects that are being covered. Despite the franchise boasting many powerful female heroes, such as Rey and Ahsoka, it has somehow failed to ever have a woman at the helm of one of its movies. The thing that makes a movie good, all right, the thing that makes a movie quality, draws fans to it, it's not writing, it's not action, it's not adventure. It's what the director has between their legs. Obaid Chinoy was absolutely correct when she stated it was about time a woman was finally entrusted to reshape the franchise. Well, you, honey, are not going to reshape anything because you're an unknown documentary director. Your Oscar wins don't mean shit in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to directing a tentpole. How'd that work out for Chloe Zhao in Eternals? Yeah, not too well, did it? No. There's a video coming out I have about Eternals. So, a woman to reshape the franchise. In short, Kathleen Kennedy has already done that through her own hubris and stupidity. It's about time Hollywood had more female directors in general. See my previous comments about what's between a director's legs. Not just within Star Wars. Despite pledging in 2021 to hire more women, Studies have found the industry is barely progressing when it comes to the number of female directors.
See, nobody cares.
Meanwhile, anytime producers and directors, females, are hired, they face many obstacles, including experiencing harassment from sexist trolls and scapegoating from studios. Now, the reaction to Obaid Chinoy's comments further proves why we need more female directors in Hollywood.
No.
I'm not saying that there's not talented female directors, because there most certainly are. But again, this is focusing on identity over substance and resume. That doesn't make sense. You can sit there and tell, well, she's an Oscar winner. For documentaries, we're talking about Star Wars. This is not some... What I meant to say is this is Star Wars we're talking about, not a feminist documentary and not a women's suffrage documentary. We're talking about a tentpole space science fiction franchise that has had around an 80% male fan base since its inception. And there's nothing wrong with selling to a specific fan base. Oh wait, there is. It only becomes a problem when a franchise's fan base is comprised of males. Then that must be broken up and feminized to demoralize that fan base and make them accept a mediocre product, which is what a lot of the fans have to do now that still consume this dreck. It shouldn't be surprising that Obaid Chinoy enjoys making men uncomfortable. Yeah, her entire career as an activist filmmaker, blah, blah, blah. And it just goes into the plight of women, work she's done in Pakistan. Nothing wrong with that. But that does not qualify her to direct the tentpole. She reiterated her stance during Tina Brown's annual Women in the World Summit 8 years ago. Of course, right-wing commentator Matt Walsh dug up the 8-year-old clip. Again, this is the author being a tribalist, okay? Right-wing commentator Matt Walsh, all right? So she's saying that only the right wing would dare stoop to the level of digging up an 8-year-old clip. How many times have we seen the left use this? How many times, folks? How many times? This is a editorial. This is not an article. This is not a non-biased article. This is complete editorialization. Prominent right-wing man baby, Ben Shapiro. I don't like Ben Shapiro. I don't give a shit about Ben Shapiro. I hate the Daily Wire. Ben Shapiro's a also proceeded to attack Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy over Obaid Chinoy directing a movie. Fortunately, Joe Russo promptly took him to task by pointing out all Kennedy's achievements compared to Shapiro's failed screenwriting career. Okay, let's take a look at this tweet from Joe Russo, and we'll prove Miss Ulatowski wrong again. Failed screenwriter Ben Shapiro, Lady Ballers. Didn't watch it. Probably never will see it. Kathleen Kennedy, Indiana Jones, Poltergeist, E.T. All these movies that she's listed on, she was a coffee-fetching producer. Much better men than her directed these movies. Namely, Steven Spielberg? Who said she wasn't even good at taking notes and getting coffee. So let's pump the brakes here, Joey Russo. Okay? Because this is funny. Here comes more from Miss Ulatowski. The sheer amount of right-wing men crying under the Star Wars hashtag on X and spewing racist and misogynist hate towards Obaid Chinoy and Kennedy for something Obaid Chinoy said years ago only serves to reiterate her point. Men absolutely do need to be made uncomfortable. Just look at the way they act when they feel threatened by a woman's existence.
Just quit being a cunt.
I'm sure there are men that are, but they are absolutely weak if they're threatened by female existence. This is projection by an insecure female writer who is, again, not writing an article. She's penning an editorial here, and it's projection. Men absolutely do need to be made uncomfortable. Men need to change their way of thinking, which is one of the things that Obaid Chinoy said. And why don't women ever need to change their way of thinking? Everything is men's fault. You do realize that is
stupid! You're so stupid!
The door swings both ways, but these feminists don't want it to. They want all the privileges. Men don't have privileges, by the way. What you call privileges, men will call burdens most of the time. Like, it's so funny. Women, all these feminists want to be, they want everything. They want to be equal until it comes time to be equal, and then they don't want to put the work in. They would collapse under the sheer weight of expectations that are put on men in this society and break down crying. And men can't do that because we get called, you get denigrated for that. Women say they want men to show emotions until a man shows an emotions, then they look at him like he's weak. You see what I'm saying? So this whole men need to change their way of thinking is an absolute piece of feminist, intersectional, man-hating garbage. Talking points spewed by idiots. That's exactly what it is. A woman mentions enjoying making men uncomfortable through works that highlight the violence women experience at the hands of men, and the right-wing man-babies run to their computers to cyberbully her because they're so offended.
You're a dumbass.
I'm sure there's a lot of attacks personally levied at her. See, you can't say anything about somebody who is a misandrist, but misogyny, that's, they deserve to be basically strung up for that. This is the double standard here that feminists have. Barbie tackles toxic masculinity, and Shapiro starts setting Barbie dolls on fire because he can't handle it. Every time the film industry vaguely acknowledges that women exist, men start crying woke. No. No. See, this, again, I said when I watched Captain Marvel, it wasn't woke. It was piss poor writing, poor acting, horrible directing, and things like that. It's the same thing with Last Jedi. I didn't hate Rey because she was a female. I hated Rey because she was a bad character in all 3 movies. And here we go again. It's also quite humorous that all the right-wingers are so certain Star Wars will fail with a woman at the helm. It has failed. Apparently, they've already forgotten that Barbie, a film made explicitly to make men uncomfortable, was the highest-grossing film of 2023. See, but no men gave a shit about Barbie, and if they did, then that's their fucking problem, not mine. Like, you make movies, these movies are made for women, they're not for you, and then you bitch and cry when men don't watch them. Or you attack men in them, and then when men strike back, you complain, you're a victim. That is such a female trait. It's such an effeminate trait. Perhaps women wouldn't enjoy making men uncomfortable if it weren't so easy. Everything from Barbie dolls to menstruation to pixie cuts to a woman talking about making uncomfortable is enough to send them into a full-blown meltdown. Nobody's melting down, darling, except for you. You're the one melting down, editorializing and crying. Because a movie that, in all honesty, will probably get stuck in production hell, suffer multiple reshoots, the budget will balloon because you have an inexperienced idiot who's only going to be a puppet for Kathleen Kennedy so she can actually call the shots. That's what these companies do when they hire these inexperienced indie directors. And just in case you're wondering, folks, this is our dead-eyed feminist author, a writer of this article, Rachel Ulatowski, is an SEO writer, those search engine terms. For Mary Sue frequently covers DC, Marvel, Star Wars, young adult literature, celebrity news, and coming-of-age films. She enjoys running, reading, and snarking on YouTube personalities and working on her future novel when she's not writing professionally. I bet you her Twitter account's a dumpster fire. But yeah, that's just my breakdown of this absolutely unhinged take that all men are somehow to blame for this. This is hilarious, folks. You know what to do. Let me know what you think in the comments of this entire situation. Don't bother reading this article. I went through it with a comb, a fine-tooth comb, the same one I use in my beard. And yeah, this is just garbage peddled by a shit website that's failing, by a writer who is probably going to be out of work in the near future because she doesn't have any talent. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Etep, and from the Place to Be Reviews, I've been here with all of yous. If I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and I will catch you on the next one.